So, I welcome you to this course on managing change in organizations, and in the last week you remember we have been talking about issues related to communication, that what kind of skills are required, what kind of strategy would be required. So, that you are able to effectively communicate at different stages of change management. So, that change is successfully implemented in the organization. Now, discussing it further, once the change is implemented in the organization, we have to see that it gets consolidated. It means that it becomes part of the organization. It is embedded and become a part of the system itself. Say for example, if you want to go for a change in the structure of the organization. So, you bring about a change in the structure of the organization and then you create a new structure and accordingly you define the roles and responsibilities, okay, and you put the structure in place. So, unless the structure are put in place, people start working in the new roles and responsibilities and they have adjusted, and it is showing that yes, that there is a better coordination vertically and horizontally. We cannot say that this restructured system of the organization is working well. So, when I am talking about consolidation or sustenance of change, it is very important to ensure that any change that is initiated by the organization is going to be consolidated fully and become a part of the organization. Now, when we are talking about sustenance and the issues related to sustenance, we have to see that how it is possible to carry out it and see that the change gets consolidated over the period of time. Now, sustaining change is not very easy, because it is very hard, because the moment you bring about a change, you want to see that it is start making the difference. Now, if you look at this cycle, this is one example that I have given here. Now, if you look at this, see how things have been moving. So, here this is the point where you are going to initiate the change. Now, once you initiate the change at here, then you see that what happens, whether you see the performance going down and then again it is picking up, and then what happens, it is somewhere it is going to stabilize, right. So, you have to see that whenever you are going to start a change or any change process, you need to ensure that once it is initiated, it gets sustained or it is consolidated, so that you get the desired result for which the change was initiated. Now, moving further, we have to see that when we are talking about change and its sustenance, what happens. Now, if you look at any kind of change that is taking in the organization, right, it must be consolidated, and if it is not consolidated, then the outcome of any change initiative is not achieved, or whatever you desire is not achieved by you. Okay. And then any benefit that you are likely to have out of this consolidation of this change does not take place. It means that you need to ensure that once you unfreeze, you move towards the refreezing state, that is the consolidation part. If you remember Kurt Lewin theory, where he talked about 3 different stages of change, starting with unfreezing to moving to refreezing. So, unfreezing when you initiate the change, okay, moving when you implement the change, and refreezing means that the change is successfully consolidated. So, here what I am talking about is that any kind of sustainable change effort involves refreezing the behavior, or if it is not behavior, anything, whether it is technology, whether it is structure, whether it is system or process, which moves to a desired state, future desired state. And if it is beneficial, then you can say that yes, the change is successfully, right. Because what has been found in many organizations, that even when the change is implemented, it is not successful, or it does not become a part of the organization. So, it gets isolated. You implement the change, there is no support, no involvement, people do not accept it, and then it is not becoming a part of the organization, right. So, you need to ensure that the change gets sticked with the organization. It means that it becomes a part of the organization, and if it is not, then you cannot achieve success in the long run. So, it is very important to ensure that any change initiative that is taken, okay, reaches to its destiny, that is the desired future state which you are looking forward to, and then you are started reaping benefit of this kind of change, because you have certain thing in mind before you go for a change, that how this change is going to benefit. So, unless success is achieved in the long term, we cannot say that it is sustainable in nature, right. So, there are certain things that need to be done to ensure that any change effort is successful, right. So, what we are going to discuss now is that what are those activities that need to be looked into, or those issues that need to be resolved to ensure that change gets sustainable, or it is going to be sticked. See, as I pointed out that most of the changes are usually not sustainable. The reason may be that the environment is not good, people are not supporting, the practices that you have adopted, right, is not good. So, you need to ensure that whenever you want to make any change, right, and you have implemented it in the organization, and if it is not giving you the desired outcome, then it is not successful, right. So, you need to ensure that any change that you initiate in the organization, you successfully implement it, and that also ensure that it is not going to impede any other development. It does not mean that one change that you have initiated, it is going to block other changes, right. So, and that is why we said that when you try to bring about a change in one part of the organization, say structural changes, then it also requires some kind of alignment with other kind of changes, maybe cultural changes, maybe people related changes, maybe the process related changes, because it is going to impact all kind of changes in the organization. Now, moving further, when we are talking about change and sustainability, there are two aspects of sustainability, and these aspects include, one is stickability. It means that change must stick. What does it mean? That the gain that has been achieved in a particular part of the organization are held and built upon. It means that it become a part and parcel of the organization. So, if it is fully embedded, it means that it has fully stick to the system, right. For example, if you want to bring about a change in a process for improvement, right. So, the improvement become a part of the process itself. It does not mean that again, even after bringing about a change, you go back to the earlier stages, and in this improvement did not result in any desired outcome. So, stickability is one issue that need to be looked into, and another issue is spreadability. Okay. So, spreadability means what? It means that whatever systems and processes that you have adopted related to the change, right, it spreads further. It means that change in one part of the system calls for change in other part of the system as well. It is very important, because if you are going to change one part of the system and you do not change other part of the systems and processes, then there could be a misalignment. That is what I have been talking about. So, in order to reduce this kind of say danger or uncertainties related to misalignment, you need to ensure that it is properly aligned with other changes. Say for example, when if you go for cultural transformation in the organization, any kind of cultural transformation, if it is not spreading to other parts of the organization and it is not also bringing about a change in the behavior of the people, then it is not going to be successful, right. So, what I am trying to tell you, that stickability means that you are sticking to that change, yes, that is to be implemented as a part of the process, change process, and then it has to spread to other parts. It should also include other systems and processes, so that whatever gains are applied is fruitful and is useful for the organization. Now, when we are talking about stickability and spreadability, let us see how it does happen. Now, see, if you look at this graph, you can find out different levels of stability, sustainability, sorry, right. Now, if you look at this, this shows the improvement, right. Now, this improvement is happening up to this level, but beyond that what actually happens? If you look at this, you can see different lines which is showing different levels of stability or sustainability, you can say, right. Starting with this kind of gain, that is class E, right, to maintaining to the new ways of working, right. So, if you look at this, you can very clearly see that the improvement is not sustainable. Even if the process is improved, what actually happens? This goes down. It means the performance goes down here. It means it is something that is not good. Similarly, here the level of sustainability is a little better, and as you move up in the hierarchy here. Now, if you look at this black line, you can very clearly see that in this class you can see that whatever tools and techniques have been applied to improve the systems and processes is more sustainable, and that is because of the sustainability. So, it has a stick to it, and that is why you are able to achieve something that was desired, which you were looking forward to in the desired future state, right. So, here at this place you only realize that yes, some gains have been achieved, but nothing has happened, you are not able to hold it because you went up to this and then gradually you came down. So, there was no improvement. Only you can say that, and here you are able to just maintain at improvement level, but there is no further improvement, right. So, and that is why we can say that at class B and class A level, the level of sustainability has increased like anything. So, it is very, very important to ensure that it is not only sticking to it, but also you are able to sustain it at a higher level, and that is more important. Moving to the other part, that is spreadability. So, this spreadability happens at different levels, okay, across the firms. So, it is spreading at different units, departments, levels also. So, for example, if you look at the first level, what happens? There is only cell level improvement. The next level, there is a improvement, standard improvement is happening, and it is transferring to similar cells, other cells also, though they are also improving. For example, if you start with experimenting change in the culture of an organization, and then you start experimenting with say one particular unit and particular department, right. And if you find that the culture of that particular unit or department has successfully transformed, then you move out to the other departments, other units, to ensure that similar improvements happen in that unit and that part of the organization also, right. Then you once you find that yes, it is successfully applied to other departments and there has been improvement and there is a change in the culture of the organization, then you move to the other part, right. So, you apply this knowledge to different cells and then you see whether the improvement is happening or not, right. So, similar things can be done at all levels and then new areas also. For example, those areas where you find it very difficult to bring about any kind of change and transformation, you can go for that also. So, gradually from one level you keep on moving to different levels, okay. And in the process you ensure that the entire organization gets transformed, right. You are able to improve the whole value system. It means that all parts of the organization, so vertically and horizontally, is going to be affected by this kind of change and starts adopting the new ways of behavior, whether it is related to the culture or anything else. So, what we have been talking about, that how stickability and spreadability is very, very important so far as sustainability of change is concerned. Now, if you look at what are the factors which are going to affect these two issues, right. You also need to identify which you think are going to contribute which is not supporting, right. Maybe say for example, the involvement of the people is not there, or there is no effective communication on the part, or the implementation is faulty, right. So, based upon your experiences of the change, you need to identify what are the issues or the factors which have contributed to otherwise, that is what, not transformation, but the decay. It means that change is not going to happen, or it is not giving the desired result that you had expected, right, related to the both. And here also again you also need to identify that why one successful experience of change which was implemented successfully in one part of the organization did not spread to other parts or other locations of the organizations. So, you need to explore those factors to identify the reasons and see that what needs to be done in order to ensure that it gets spread to other parts of the system and the organization. So, it is very important to look into these two issues of stickability and spreadability, and if you are able to take care of this, definitely you are moving to have a more consolidated system which becomes a part of the organization. See, these are some of the factors which have been identified, because of which sustainability could be a problem. For example, the change managers have shifted, those who initiate change move on. It means they are no longer responsible for carrying out the change activities. So, even one thing that need to be ensured by the organization is that those who have initiated the change, they continue unless the change gets consolidated, and then accountability for development becomes diffused. Do not give the responsibility to so many people, right. Makes those key people accountable for all kind of developments, especially change managers, and let them be responsible for taking care of the entire change management process, right. The third factor is knowledge and experience of new practices lost through turnover. If employees are leaving, right, even if you adopted new systems and practices and people have well versed with that kind of system and start working and producing good results, but if they leave, then what will happen? Then it is not possible to sustain. Then depending upon what kind of people you are recruiting, okay. Because if you are going to recruit people who are not adapt to new systems, are not interested or reluctant to work with new ways of doing, then it will become very difficult. So, you will find that those who are dynamic in nature, those organizations, they are going to recruit people not only for the knowledge and skill base of the employees, but those who are really ready to work and are able to adapt themselves to the new ways of working, new ways of processes, systems. So, that the old habits which they have inculcated is not going to impede any kind of impact which is supposed to provide good results. So, you need to ensure that you are going to recruit people who are really dynamic, who are more adaptable and ready to work with the new system. Then you also need to identify that the triggers for the change, both the internal and external pressures for the change, because of which you went for the change, have lost their relevance and visibility. It means that they are no more important. So, those forces because of which you went for a change is not relevant or important in that context, then their visibility is gone. It means that they are not going to be a driving force for the change, and if they do not become a driving force for the change, then they do not act as triggers. So, if they are not going to act as triggers, then the visibility is lost and it is not going to be sustainable. There is no point talking about sustainability in that case actually. So, moving further, what we are going to discuss is that yes, the new managers have their own agenda. For if the old managers have left, those who are responsible for the change and those who are in charge of the change, and then some new managers have joined and they are interested in their own agenda. And then if you remember, we talked about resistance and the power politics issues, if that comes out in the surface. So, if you have certain powerful stakeholders and they start blocking the progress, they do not allow that to happen, then in that case change is not sustainable. Okay. And priming funds run out, it means that the money that is allocated for the activity is not sufficient or is not enough to meet the expenses related to the change. And then because it might happen because you have new priorities for resources. So, this kind of change is not your priority, and so you do not focus upon that. And you also ensure that any kind of change, if you lose your excitement and motivation, because the one factor that is very very important, which is known as change fatigue, because you are continuously working on that. So, you this kind of systems might develop in the organization among the people, and this concept is known as fatigue. So, if fatigue is the level of fatigue is very high, then gradually what happens, that the excitement and motivation of the people who are responsible for the change goes off, because they are not interested to work anymore, because they have been continuously doing these kind of things, and they feel tired of their efforts which they have been going on. So, these kind of issues are very very important, that must be looked into, and they might affect or hamper your sustainability issues. Now, how we are going to promote sustainability? So, you need to, if you remember, we talked about this force field theory, and we said that the driving forcing and the constraining forces are very very important, right. So, if you are only pushing hard for change, if it is a planned change, directed change coming from the top management, and you just want to ensure that people start following that, then it is not good. Okay. You only gain compliance. It means that people with their lateral spirit are not really accepted and committed to the change. They will go for it because there is a direction from the top, but ultimately they are not going to accept it. So, we also need to see that when you are moving from the past situation to the present situation, what are the driving forces, right? Because these driving forces push you to go for the new state of affairs, that is the new situation. So, you can accept only compliance provided you are going to push hard certain factors, right. But if these driving forces are really important, are the triggers that you have identified, both internal and external forces, and if people understand them and they think that yes, it is very very important, then probably you will be able to reach to this level, right, and then something follows out of it. It means that yes, you continue to go for it, the new situation. Otherwise, what will happen? This consolidation effort is not met, right. So, it is very very important to reduce the restraining forces. So, if you are able to reduce restraining forces that we have talked about just now, like you are able to reduce the resistance, you are able to handle powerful stakeholders, you make people accountable who are the change responsible for the change management efforts, right. Your communication strategy is good, you have got say involvement and participation of the people. So, that is going to reduce your restraining forces, and if that happens, then it would promote ownership, then people take responsibility and accountability, and you get commitment for the change. And if that happens, it is going to be more sustainable compared to you just push for the change and ask people to accept it. Moving further, how we go about promoting sustainability in the change process. Okay. Avoid declaring victory too soon. Though there could be short term wins in the process, the different stages, but do not say that yes, the change has happened, right. And at the same time, you should not lose your focus, remain focused on all the stages as and when you move to different stages to ensure that change is successfully implemented and it is sticking and spreaded, right. Then you also provide feedback to the people that how well they are doing at different stages, and that would make a great difference, because if you tell people that yes, see we have achieved up to this level, then people know that their efforts have brought some results, okay. And that would make a difference, that also acts as a motivation for them to move further, right. So, you also tell what are the benefits and see that what are the benefits that stakeholders have in the process, that how this change is going to affect the people and others, right. Then you should be aware of the bicycle effect, right, where lack of forward momentum leads to a crash. You know, bicycle effect, it is very, very important, because if you push very hard, then the momentum is lost. For example, if you are riding a cycle and if you are trying very hard, in the beginning what happens? you will find that yes, the momentum is good, you are moving fast, but after some time what happens? After some times it does not work. It means the chain become very loose, and if it becomes loose, then it does not give or provide any good result, right. So, even if you are pushing very hard, you have loose movements and it does not work. So, this kind of bicycle effect may also happen in change management also, because in the beginning you have lot of enthusiasm, excitement and motivation to go for a change. But if you push so hard, then at a later stage you may find that the momentum is lost, right, because say midway people lose their motivation and interest, okay, and then you need to ensure that there is a continuous and consistent focus on what is to be done at different stages of the change, right. So, if this bicycle effect is going to influence you, then the any kind of forward momentum is not going to happen, right. So, you need to maintain this enthusiasm at different level by incorporating in different kind of activities, by identifying goals and activities that is important at each of these stages, and ensure that the change managers or the tag teams continuously work for it to maintain the same level of motivation. Otherwise, sustainability could be a big issue for the organization. Then when we want to spread change, definitely it is very important. Any kind of innovations happens because you want to implement some kind of changes. So, you can say even the innovation is an outcome of the change efforts. Okay. And here we are going to discuss about three important things. What are the attributes of the innovation, attributes of the organization and value of the potential users of the innovation. Since innovation is related with the change, we will discuss it in the next module in detail, but here we will give you some idea about how it happens. Any kind of change effort bring about some changes. Okay. So, if it is bringing about some changes, it means you now have a different ways of doing, different kind of system or process, right. So, that is the kind of innovation that you have. So, you need to ensure that this new ways of doing things or the new practices is more advantageous, okay, and it is also compatible with other practices which are existing in the organization, okay, and people are able to understand the new systems and practices. It could you have demonstration sites where people can go and see that how it is working. Say for example, you have been able to bring about a system in your knowledge management program, a knowledge management system in one part of the organization. So, this knowledge management system that you have deployed in the organization is important, but you also need to see that how are you going to spread that to the other part of the organization. So, you have a system which can be observed, where people go and see and test whether it is really working or not, and if it is working, then you can see that yes, it is something that is good for them and it is good to adopt it, because it is going to help them to reduce certain things, and then you can say that yes, this kind of innovation is going to really help you, right. It is something like reinventing the wheel versus exact copying. So, do not go for exactly copying the things. The same kind of KM system may not be applicable to other units, other departments. So, you need to bring about some changes by understanding the system, observing how it is work, and then testing it in your own context to see that whether it is working or not. Right. Moving to the second part, attributes of the organizations. You also need to ensure whether there is a support from the management for implementing any kind of change for the organization. So, you need to ensure a strong implementation climate, because if the climate of the organization is not good, then it is not possible. It means that you need to ensure that yes, employees have the skill to use this innovation, right. They are being they are being given incentives for the use. So, if you have gone for a change and if you started working with the change structure, change technologies, then some kind of incentives should be given, so that you are able to sustain it and people are motivated enough to work for it. Then you also need to remove certain obstacles, okay, which may be there when people start adopting new work practices. Okay. So, it is the responsibility of the organization to provide all kind of support in terms of resources, leadership, direction, so that the climate of the organization become more favorable, and if that become more favorable, then it is definitely helping the employees to adopt new systems and practices in the organization, and that would result further in consolidation or sustainable activities. Now, the third part is related to the value of potential users, and means that you need to see that the moment you talk about new systems and practices, and then you see that those who are going to use this, what extent they find that it is worth, whether it is fulfilling their own values or not, right, and whether it is going to affect their motivation to adapt to the change or not. So, the user's perception is very, very important. Say for example, if you go for a change in the technology, right. So, if you bring about a change in the technology of the production system, so definitely this technology would create any kind of value or add value only if it is able to produce goods which is going to be cost effective, or it is going to produce variety of products at a lower cost, right. Then only people find value in it. If otherwise, what will happen if you think that even this new technology is not making any significant impact on the performance of the organization, the productivity of the group or the department, then it will not create any kind of value, right, and then people may not be motivated to go for adopting the new kind of technology. So, it is not only important to just to communicate people that yes, this is important and you should go for it, but also ensure that you are able to convince them about the value of this change and how it is going to benefit you and the organization both. Now, if you look at this chart, you can see that the implementation climate and the innovation value fit, how it is going to result in either poor or neutral or good performance. So, if you have a strong implementation climate, means that people are top management is supporting, they are able to provide all the resources, direction, these kind of things, right. But there is a lot of resistance, they only go by compliance, they do not accept it. Here people are neutral, then they do not use the technology properly. But if the level of motivation and enthusiasm is maintained, then you get more commitment and there is a consistent and creative innovative use. It means that people are ready to accept and start working with the new technology, and the level of commitment is very high, very high. But if there is a weak implementation and this innovation value fit is very poor, then employee get relieved, okay, nothing doing, okay, no innovation is there, it is not useful at all. If it is neutral, then they disregard, they do not accept it, okay, and it does not have use also. But if value is good, innovation value fit is good, then they feel frustrated, they think that what is the point of bringing this, because it is not good and they are not being supported by the management, right. And then there is a very less use. So, what I am trying to communicate is that it is not only important to ensure that there is a good innovation value fit, but also have a supporting climate from the organization, so that it works for consistently more sustainable change. Otherwise, what will happen? The change will not be sustainable, you can say, right. So, climate of the organization, especially when we are talking about it in terms of support from the top management, providing all kind of resources that is required, there is a leadership support, there is a direction from the top management. So, all these factors create a strong implementation climate, and that is good, and that is basically helps in motivating employees, improving their commitment, and ultimately going for more sustainable change. So, what we need to do in order to ensure that yes, the change is more sustainable, we need to go for redesigning the role, right. It means that you need to ensure that roles and responsibilities of the people gets changed in the new system. Otherwise, it is not going to be sustainable. Then another important point is redesigning the reward system. Now, if you have gone for a change say in technology and because of this change in the technology, the performance level has improved, but this performance level improvement does not result in any reward for the employees. So, you need to ensure that this reward is linked with the performance, so that it is able to maintain a culture where they find that is reward performance is linked, and it also leads to higher motivation, directly influencing the values of the organization, right. And also ensure that the selection decisions is linked to the change objectives. Now, you need to select people, especially recruit people, those who are able to accept new ideas and those who are willing to go for change. It means that they are more innovative, they are ready to take risks, some risks, moderate risks you can say for that example, and they are able to take risks in the sense that they are able to go for experimentation, right. They have ideas which they want to implement, and then if such people are going to be there, then definitely they would be more prone to change, and change is going to be more sustainable. And finally, consistently with consistently with advocated actions. What I mean to say here is that you need to ensure that the systems and practices that you have adopted is maintained at the change level, so that change become permanent. If the change is not going to be permanent, it means that the systems and practices, the new systems and practices that has been adopted is not working, and in that case you cannot say that yes, change is going to be more sustainable, right. You also encourage voluntary act of initiative, that is, see that the new systems and practices which is related to the change is being encouraged as the standard by everyone in the organization at all levels. And similarly, also measure the progress. As you move ahead, you try to quantify the progress of the change, and then communicate it to the people, so that they know that how much success has been achieved, and then celebrate en route. That is very, very important. Always celebrate short term wins, acknowledge it, celebrate it, so that it would increase the credibility of the program, that any change management initiative that you have started is giving results, and then fine tune it, make some adjustments depending upon the requirements. So, go for modifications, you find that some change some improvement is required in the change outcome or the process, right, because once you have initiated change you cannot go back, you already invested money, you have made lot of effort. So, on the way you can make some adjustments in the process part or the outcome part, right. So, that is what, and then change managers also need to look at this. There is a possibility of unanticipated outcomes. Sometimes you are not going to be successful fully. It is very difficult sometimes to measure the progress of the change in quantified terms, right. Do not declare victory soon. It means that though you are talking about celebrating en route and suggesting that yes, success is required and to be celebrated, but do not say that oh, we have achieved success, we have gone for change, it is consolidated, right. Make sure that level of commitment continues, right, it does not go down at any level of the change, okay. And recognize productive failures. Sometimes there could be failures, okay, in the process. So, recognize and then take certain corrective actions, so that change is successful and it is sustainable. So, with this we want to finish this part. Thank you very much.